It is a really rewarding experience, and I wish all of you had it along with me, to be able to review the promotion and tenure documents that come up to the Office of the Provost. We have such a strong body of faculty who are serious about putting students first in teaching and also contributing to our scholarly efforts and putting forth service. We have very strong faculty at the institution. Let's talk just a minute. I didn't list all the new staff specifically because we've had a lot. I want to take a minute to talk about and express appreciation to our group of advisors. We've got a number of new advisors this year. They play such a critical role. We are now at a point, we've added about 9 advisors in the last 2 years. We're at a ratio of about 1 advisor for every 350 students. They play such a critical role in our retention and graduation efforts to make sure every student is welcomed. Every student has a degree plan in my degree and is working through that, getting the right courses in the right places. Most importantly, making sure that they feel like they've got someone that they can go to when they really come here often naive and unaware of what a university experience is like. Let's take a minute and ask all our advisors, our professional advisors, to please stand up and give them a round of applause. We also have added had positions refilled for new administrative assistants this year. This group of staff also plays a critical role making sure that we understand and are organized in all our departments and schools in the Office of the Provost. Let's take a minute and celebrate both the new and the existing administrative assistants. If you could please stand. Thank you. Last year, we really reviewed the best way we can support online students and online programming. As part of that, we distributed the staff positions that were in the CEDL into the schools as part of our school-based strategy, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And in addition to that, we've added several positions and people into online academic program coordinator positions. So if you are an online academic program coordinator, if you could please stand to be recognized as well. Spreads are out. Thank you. And I'm confident there are other new or refilled staff positions that I met. So we're going to take a minute and have all the staff stand up and give one more round of applause. If you're a staff member, please stand up. Right, lift it up. Let's go. We also have with us as part of the Academic Affairs an outstanding OTR team that all of this up here looks like it's easy, but that is not easy. Making sure the screens work and the computers are there, and we walk into a classroom pushing a button, everything turns on. So if we could have everybody that works in OTR, please stand up and let's give them a round of applause as well. Roger, you did well. You've got them all in one group right there. Nice job. Now, let's take a minute also and talk about the Faculty Senate. The Faculty Senate did a tremendous job last year reviewing and revising how we work shared governance at Middle Georgia State University. They reorganized some committees, reorganized some boards, reorganized different groups to make sure that there was an alignment as closely as possible between the work of the Senate, what the administration is doing, what the faculty are doing, who they represent. I want to take a minute, if you're a senator or serve on a committee or a board or are coming into one of those positions or served last year, let's take a minute and have you stand and thank you for your service and representing the faculty so well. So members of the Faculty Senate or associated committees, please stand. We also did some administrative shifting. I recognize some of the faculty members may not even care, and that's just fine, but I want to make sure we understand those administrators that are here to do all we can to make sure what happens in the classroom is successful and that you as faculty and staff are supported. In the Office of the Provost, we have Dr. Deborah Matthews, who joined our office as an Associate Provost. Deborah, if you could please stand. We have two new deans, Dr. Mary Warren and Dr. Steve Morse. If they're here, if they could stand. We have a new associate dean in the School of Arts and Letters, Dr. Amy Burke. And then with some shifts in the departments, we have several new department chairs coming in this year, or have already started. Dr. Chris Lawrence in Political Science. There he is. Dr. Carol Sargent in Accounting and Finance. Mr. Stan Ketchell in Management and Marketing. Dr. Chip Rogers in English. Dr. Matt Houston in Mathematics and Statistics. Dr. Jonathan Yerby in Information Technology. Let's take a minute also, I didn't list them out here, but I want to make sure every person who is stepping out of an administrative position back to faculty or some other role gets recognized. So if you were an administrator last year or stepping out of that this year, please stand. Let's give you a round of applause. Thank you. Now we're going to take a minute and get to know the new faculty who have joined us. We've got a few that we're still trying to get hired, but these are the ones we have in place as of the end of last week. So Mr. Andy Davidson actually has been with the institution for a long time, since 2007. First as a director of instructional design, part-time faculty member. At one point I think he was an assistant professor, and now he has joined us as a lecturer in English. So Mr. Andy Davidson, if you could stand up and get recognized, that would be great. Thank you. Mr. David English joins us as a lecturer in aviation. David, are you here somewhere if you want to stand up? As you can see, he joins us with a long career in aviation. We're fortunate to have his expertise in our School of Aviation. Next, Mr. Boyoung Lee is also assistant professor in aviation. We recruited him out of South Korea. That's quite a jump over the pond. We're glad you're here. And Dr. Steve Morse, who's now our new dean in the School of Business. Dr. Morse, if you could please stand. In the back there. The PhD from Tennessee, and he comes to us formally as a dean at another institution in the state. Next, Mr. Bill Carty joins us as a lecturer in business who will be focusing on Cochrane and Dublin for the most part, business classes. Mr. Carty, there he's standing right in the back right there. He is also ABD at the University of Florida and served a long stint in the military, so thank you for your service, Mr. Carty. Next, Mr. James Hagler, who has also been with the institution for a long time in the athletics department. He's now transitioning to a faculty position. James, if you're here somewhere, there he is in the back. Stand up. Is that type enough that you can read those as we're going through here? I don't want to be that guy that reads your PowerPoint. Next, Mr. Joshua Harrelson, assistant professor of mathematics, PhD from Auburn, should be finished now. Where is he? Josh Harrelson somewhere back there? There he is, in the back corner. I guess they say War Eagle over there, is that right? I heard something about that. Mr. Wayne Lockwood, lecturer in IT. Is he here somewhere? Nope, he couldn't be here today, so we'll give him a round of applause and abstention. Dr. Chi Nai Chang, assistant professor of psychology. We also recruited her from over the pond some way, but we're glad you're here with us. Thank you. Dr. Tammy Hayslip, professor of education, joined us here an EDD from Bob Jones. Let's give her a round of applause. Ms. Rebecca Gee, Assistant Professor of Nursing. There she is on this side. Let's give her a round of applause. Next, Ms. Raina Weigel, also Assistant Professor of Nursing. Welcome. Next, Dr. Odo Schweik, Assistant Professor of Biology. Good to have you with us, Odo. Next, Dr. Amber Howard. She's sitting in the back there. Give her a round of applause. When she interviewed, she and I had a long conversation about longevity of life, which is a fascinating conversation. That's her area of expertise. If you want to have an interesting conversation, stop by our office sometime, but not all at once. Next, Dr. Tom Hancock, Assistant Professor of Biology, has joined us for a second time, actually. In his earlier stint, Tom and I were neighbors in the Cochrane dorms for a while. It's good to have you back, Tom. Miss Nancy Geisey, am I saying that close? Hey, how about that? Assistant Professor in Respiratory Therapy. Great to have you. Dr. Stacy O'Neill, Assistant Professor, also in Rehabilitation Sciences. Let's give her a round of applause. So we've got a lot of great new faculty who have joined us, in addition to the staff positions we've added this year. Let me talk to you a little bit about this position of Provost Fellow. We created this last year and invited a number of applicants. We settled on these 7 who had the opportunity to work out of the office of the provost for a year. This role has shifted some for the coming year, but last year we asked each of them to identify one area on campus that they were passionate about, had some expertise or that they were interested in, and that we could do better. Some way that we could try to identify ways which we could improve what we're doing. So each of them picked an area of interest. They spent a year studying that area of interest. We met about once a month, went through a series of readings together, had many conversations, and each one of them wrote a white paper about what we could do different or better in the areas that they had identified. I'm not sure you can read the little text there, but all of these are posted on the Provost website. Now, I want to extend an invitation. I acknowledge and appreciate the fact that we live in a shared governance environment. That is how we operate. So I was clear with the Provost Fellows, I didn't want to take their work and automatically move towards implementation. I had them write the white papers so these ideas could permeate the organization we have. So they could be a part of our shared governance model. So if you're a member of the faculty or staff, if you are a senator, if you play any role in the shared governance, which all of us do, I'd encourage you to read through these papers and see which ideas ring true to you. And bring those forth to your senators, to the members of the staff council, and say, why don't we act on this part of it? We'll do that the same with the administration to see which areas we can adopt, things we can shape, good ideas that exist in the papers that we can try to implement. But this is an invitation for all of us to look through the work that they did over the last year and try to find ways we can use that to help improve what we do and improve student success. Middle Georgia. So let's ask for just a minute the Provost Fellows to stand up and be recognized. Amy Burke, Eric Sun, there's Eric back there, Chris Kearney, Karen Svanovic, Melinda Robinson Moffett is not with us. She's now in another division, but we'll recognize her in absentia. Kendra Russell, and Sumitra Humyoshu Pennypacker. She's in the back there. A year-long commitment as a Provost Fellow was a significant commitment. Their work is very good. I've gone through it, and I'd encourage each of you to read it. Again, those are posted on the Provost's website. This coming year, we're shifting this Provost Fellow's position a little bit to be one from research and exploration to one of helping us manage the administrative part of the organization. We have 3 provost fellows we've named. Let me talk about each of their responsibilities this coming year. Dr. Erickson will continue from last year. He is the Associate Dean in the School of Health and Natural Sciences, so he's got a full-time position there. He also has done an outstanding job working in a cross-functional role to help train the advisors and to communicate with the advisors. So the advisors have not only direction from a dean in the school in which they work, but he is also making sure that they're sharing a consistent message, so we have students who are receiving consistent advice, especially regarding dual enrollment, learning support, and all those other areas across all of the schools. So he'll continue in that role this year. Dr. Laura Thomason has served the institution for a number of years in heading up international programs as a full-time administrator. She's now transitioning back to a full-time faculty role, but will be a provost fellow, and is there to help each of the schools develop and expand what we do in international programs. Ideally, we'd have a lot more students leaving this great place of Macon or Cochrane or Dublin or Eastman, Warner Robins, and seeing that there is a broader world out there. So if your faculty in your schools have a desire to shape some international experience for your students, Laura's the place to start. She does an excellent job and has a vast amount of experience in that area and can give you any guidance. Also, the university system centralized some of what they do with international programs under this new title called USG Goes Global. And if you have questions about that, Laura can help you talk about how that will operate and opportunities for your students there. Third, Dr. Neil Rigoli. He's a new provost fellow this year, as is Laura, and he is going to lead our faculty development efforts. He's very excited about this possibility and has some really unique things we're going to be doing this coming year. We'll have faculty development days in the fall and in the spring on different campuses like we did last year, and Dr. Rigoli is going to take the lead there. So let's invite these 3 provost fellows for 1920 to stand up and give them a round of applause. Another initiative that came from the system office this time is this idea of a Chancellor Learning Scholar. We were told we could have 4 last year. I pushed the system office and said, really, we have 6 schools. Can we just have 1 per school? Because each of these comes with funding for the scholar and also a budget line for them to purchase books or readings and those kind of things for the groups that they lead. They conceded, and we had 6 last year, which was a great opportunity for these 6 Chancellor Learning Scholars to pull together smaller groups of faculty and to take a year and study some subject they were interested in. A lot of them focused on things like small group learning, or how do you teach a large class and keep it small, or how do you integrate technology into the classroom. And so this is a 2-year appointment, so this first group is leaving their first year, entering their second year, and will continue what they did, the work they did last year. We've been able to add an additional scholar this year, Dr. Sabrina Winger. And so if you are one of the Chancellor Learning Scholars this year or entering this year, or last year or beginning this year, if you could please stand, we'll give you some recognition as well. If you're not familiar with this opportunity, I'd encourage you to seek out one of the Chancellor Learning Scholars and sit down and talk to them. They're pulling together small groups of faculty to study those areas, and really it's been a great experience for them. We have added a number of academic programs. Now, I'll transition to the second part of the presentation here. And we have been really fortunate that we are in the good graces of the USG. We have been fortunate in the last just over a year to add a whole list, 5 new academic programs. They're all enrolling students with the exception of one that will be once we get some accreditation issues worked on. I've invited each of the chair, program directors, somebody who's responsible for these programs to come up and give us, we said no more than 90 seconds, on the program, what it is, who it's going to attract, and what we're going to do. So let's go in order. Who's got political science? Come on up. And then a sport management, and then we've got Betsy McDaniel will cover the next 2, and then Chip Rogers will cover the last one. Lawrence, it's yours.
Thank you very much. We've actually started the political science program last fall. We have launched the program in Cochrane. We have about 23 students enrolled as of fall 2019. We're still trying to convert over a few stragglers that are in the associate's degree program. We're still working on that, but our goal is to expand that program obviously a lot more. And our kind of short to medium term goal is to also be able to offer the degree in Macon, hopefully in the next year or two, depending on how we can get the schedule to work. But that is definitely something that we're looking at doing real soon. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is James Hagler, and I'm the new professor for sports management, our new program here. It's actually been part of the Health Services Administration as a concentration for about 8 years. Bill Hervey and I have worked on it for quite a while, and I've been teaching in that, so it's a good transition over to keep that going. We're going to offer in Cochrane initially with online with classes face-to-face, but online classes as well. And eventually we'll be able to offer in Macon as well. That's one of those things we're working on now to see what see what everybody's looking for. So we'll also be offering internships, and it's very flexible to offer the program as it's transitioning over from the Health Services Administration, flexible to the students that are interested in it. A lot of our students that are interested in it are on the Cochrane campus because that's where probably about 120, which is almost 2/3 of our athletes are, plus our club football program that makes up about 80 to 100. So if you have any questions, you can contact myself or Bill Hervey, and we can help you out with any questions on that.
So we are excited that we are about to begin offering classes for the Rehabilitation Science Program on the Cochrane campus this fall. This will be the first time we've offered these classes. We've so far got about 74 students actually registered in that major, so we're really excited to be starting with that number of students. Now, to be clear, this is a bachelor's degree, so we've got students at all different levels right now since it's just beginning, so all 74 of those are not necessarily taking the classes in the major at this point, but we're excited to see the interest. That program is offered on the Cochrane campus, and it gives students the opportunity to seek a job as soon as they graduate in many different areas within the community, such as sports medicine or in cardiac rehab, lots of different opportunities for them. But it also gives students the ability to continue on to graduate school. So it provides them with the bachelor's degree that they need to be candidates for physical therapy programs, occupational therapy, speech language pathology, several different options for them. So we've had a lot of excitement already about that particular program. And then we are also working on the accreditation for a master's degree in occupational therapy. Most of you know we already offer the occupational therapy assistant degree on the Cochrane campus. So this master's program will be a bridge program that will allow students who are already certified as occupational therapy assistants to continue their education and get a master's degree in occupational therapy. That's something that this region has needed for a long time. It is the only bridge program offered in a public school in the state of Georgia. So we have had an enormous outpouring of support already from our own alumni and the alumni of the 4 other OTA programs in the state. So we're really looking forward to getting that up and running. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact me, Betsy McDaniel, or for the Rehab Science Program, our new faculty member, Stacy O'Neill, is going to be heading up that Rehab Science Program. So thanks.
Hi, we have the new MA in Technical and Professional Writing is an expansion of the graduate certificate in Technical Writing and Digital Communication which is now 21 months old. And it has basically, we took the 5 courses that were in the graduate certificate and expanded it to 10-course MA. We have, I believe we were up to 15, somewhere between 15 and 18 students in the graduate certificate program. And in the less than 2 months the MA has been available, we now have 12 people fully admitted, 2 people that the admissions committee has approved but have yet to be processed. So we are off to a great start. It's a program we're very excited about. If you have questions, ask me, Chip Rogers, or our graduate program coordinator, Dr. Benita Muth. I'm going to hop off.
I think that's the 3rd time we've had him stand up this meeting. Sorry, Chip. And Dorothy, we should have had you come up too. Sorry you had that crossed. Let's talk next about how we work across the Division of Academic Affairs with other divisions on campus. I want you to know, as members of the Division of Academic Affairs, that we have very healthy, positive working relationships with every other division. The vice presidents work very well together, very collaboratively, and we're all headed in the same direction. We're committed to building a successful state university. One thing we're going to be working on this year is not only having academic program maps for each student, which we have built those in DegreeWorks. The student coming in with desiring to study any degree can drop a map in that'll show them exactly which courses to take each semester they're here to get them on track to graduate in 4 years. We're integrating that with some of the work that Student Affairs is pushing. They've modeled this after the University of Georgia and some other institutions that do this. I'm fully aware you can't read the small type. But you can see the big idea is they've identified 5 different areas that are non-curricular experiences that a student should have. We're going to try to integrate those this year into what we do with academic programming and advising. And so when a student shows up in their first year, first semester, yes, they need to take this list of classes, but here are a set of experiences that Student Affairs are providing that they should take advantage of so they continue to develop their own soft skills and prepare to enter the job market, whatever their chosen profession, or to graduate school, whichever direction they go, as soon as they finish. And so they've identified areas that a student should complete each semester and each year as they go through. We're going to integrate those together, and so we can advise a student not only to develop themselves in the classroom, but with the supplemental experiences they should have to be successful once they're done. That's some of the things we're doing in programming. The president mentioned we intend to submit new academic programs this year. We've got a number of those either in process or already at the board office. They include a degree in BS in sociology. We're working on one in some form of art. We're not sure what form that will take as soon as we get done with the proposal. We also have, we've not given up on the idea of an MSW or the MED. We're working on through some political issues to make sure that we have the possibility of getting those considered at the board level. There are a number of other degrees in the pipeline that are in different phases of development, and we'll just work through the process and see which one of those come to fruition in the coming year. Let me talk to you a little bit about enrollment and budget. You've heard enrollment for a long time. And as the president mentioned this morning, we are so fortunate in the last 1.5 to 2 years that we've turned the ship just a little bit. We now are entering our 5th consecutive semester of enrollment growth. And some of us in academic affairs may look at that and say, well, we really don't want to grow. We like being small. What we're trying to do is first to get the right size, making sure that we have the right number of students to cover the bills that are associated with the facilities and other expenses that we have. We are just entering in fiscal year 20, the second of 3 years that the university system is lowering the e-tuition rate. What does that mean for us? It means last year in the budget cycle, we had to cut $1.3 million out of the budget. We were so lucky that we did that without having to impact staff and faculty positions. We did cancel some that were vacant, just chose not to refill them, but no one had to lose a job. No, the only way we were able to do that was we had enrollment growth to balance it out. We have one more year of that cycle. When we prepare our budget for fiscal year 21, we're estimating we'll have a budget reduction on the e-tuition revenue side of about $1.5 million. The only way we'll be able to assume that is if we grow. And we've got to keep growing just to make sure that we can cover that cut. And then we've got a big burden in terms of our fixed expenses based on the footprint that we have in terms of physical space. So we've got to be a certain size to make sure we can cover those expenses. Once we get past these few hurdles, we can then have conversations about who we really want to be and where we really want to grow and how we serve the markets we do. But in this coming year, enrollment is going to be critically important to make sure that we stay fiscally sound, which we are in a good place. Right now, all indicators suggest we'll be up probably 3 or 4% for fall semester, which is a huge, huge step forward for the institution. I'm going to ask you at the end of the presentation to do something a little bit to help with that. But that we can't get away from that relationship between the enrollment and the budget. And I want you to hear that message that this is really important. It's something we can't take our eye off, but we're also in really good shape. We've just got to keep doing and improving a few areas, and we should be healthy and fine and be able to assume that $1.5 million budget cut from the e-tuition in the coming year. We have, again, back to institutional research, as we look to the future, it's very important we know where we've been in the past. And our IR team has done a phenomenal job pulling together a series of dashboards that can give you an accurate picture of where we have been as an institution. I'm not going to take the time in this meeting in this format, although it's something I would really enjoy, walking through each of the dashboards, explaining what they are, and looking at the health indicators of our institution from a numbers perspective. They're all linked on the IR website. I'd encourage you to take 20 or 30 minutes, and you'll see you can track every day where we are in admissions this time over last year, where we are in enrollment this time over last year, where we are in retention, recognizing there's lots of ways to measure retention. This is the number of students we have in our seats right now who are not going to graduate or not scheduled to graduate, who have not yet or have registered for the coming semester and the semester following. So as soon as spring registration and summer registration open up, you'll know exactly by department which percent you are in terms of the number of students that could register that either have or have not. So we've got, and you can look at campus enrollments and all those things, lots of historical links on there. We have the best information we've probably ever had as an institution that all of us as leaders, all of us, which we all are leaders in our shared governance environment, need to be informed about and have the opportunity now to be informed about. And so we can have meaningful conversations about how we need to allocate resources and things we can do different than we have in the past. I do think it's worth giving IR another round of applause for their work in this area. Let's give them a hand. The president mentioned that we have 7 action items we're going to work on for the coming year in the strategic plan. I've listed 5 here because they're the 5 that have something to do or have been assigned to academic affairs. We will be working closely with student affairs to look at all of the academic and student support programs to make sure they're functioning as well as we could and to identify ones we need to add to fit our unique student population, which I'll mention more about in just a minute. The second, let's talk about MGA Direct for just a minute. We are primarily a face-to-face institution. If you look at a number of different ways to measure where a student goes and where they attend classes, if you look at the number of credit hours we teach online versus face-to-face, we're pushing the point that online is our largest campus. And that's a significant thing that we need to ask ourselves, so that's where we want to do and manage it well. We have growing enrollment in the face-to-face environment on many of our campuses, but we've intentionally tried in the last year to bring some focus to our online program offerings. So we're moving the online campus underneath the moniker of MGA Direct. So when someone says they are attending the MGA Direct campus or taking courses online, that's the label we're using for recruiting, marketing, and organizational purposes. So MGA Direct is our online campus, and we've got about 11 or 12 programs that have voluntarily selected in to be part of that. Most of the courses are 8 weeks. We build out schedules for each of those, but this is for the student who is primarily online. Why is this important to an institution? Our online students are retained at a rate about 10 percentage points lower than our face-to-face students. For us to grow as an institution, we've got to fix that. Bringing some coherence to what we do online is important. MGA Direct is our tool for that. So we build out the courses, we have the model, we're advising students into MGA Direct. Separate from that, enrollment management has just hired Dr. Melinda Moffett to serve as our corporate and community partnership advocate in enrollment management. And that she will be responsible for building relationships with companies who want to send their students back, and MGA Direct will be the program they enter into when they come here. So that'll be a big initiative. We've launched it. We'll continue building that out in this coming year. As I mentioned, we're going to pursue those degrees in the coming year with strategy number 3, strategy 4. I should have given Chris of Ottawa a little more heads up that this was going to be a big initiative this year because he about had a heart attack, but we are at a point in our SACS review cycle that we're in the 5th year of the QEP, and so bringing that, what has been a tremendously successful quality enhancement plan as an institution, bringing that to a closure this year will be part of what we do. And I'll mention just a little about developing the compensation organizational structure for staff. We do a pretty good job, and we've done a better job in the last couple years benchmarking when we hire faculty against Coupa data. Coupa data are the data that represent 600 institutions similar to us around the country. So we can benchmark where we pay compared to other institutions and try to get people within the ranges of about the type of institution that we are. That's the benchmark we largely use in dealing with faculty. The staff side, the data just aren't as good in Coupa. And so we're going to this year bring an outside firm to look at not only the pay grades and if they're at the right pay rates, but also to look at the organizational structure to make sure people have opportunities for advancement within the institution, so staff don't have to leave to get an advanced, to get a promotion or more opportunities. That's really all we know about that at this point. That will be an initiative we do this year. We don't know what that outcome will look like yet. From the USG, we've been focusing for last year on building out the Momentum Year, which has all these different indicators that freshmen, when they come here, are supposed to do. Everybody kept asking, once we've implemented Momentum Year, what do we do next? Well, we now know that the system is encouraging us to adopt something called the Momentum Approach. We do things for freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, all the way through the undergraduate experience in these 5 areas: deepening purposeful choice, maintaining full momentum along clear pathway, and you can read the rest of them, but all of these align with what we're going to do in building school-level strategy, and that will be the tool we use to do it. So we come back this fall in a new school structure. We've got the school varsity. You can list there, all of you know which school you're a part of. In the next week and a half or so, each school will have their own set of meetings where they come together for the first time as a school and ask really deep and important questions. We have, as an institution, built our strategy. Some of that is built by USG. We are the low-cost position in the state university sector. That's determined by USG based on our tuition rate. We know we have a regional approach because we are Middle Georgia, and that's how our strategic plan is outlined. We know we're going to do a good job serving a blended function mission. So we'll have some students who are barely prepared to be here. We'll have a learning support population. We'll have students who are at the highest end of what almost any student in the country would be. So we've got parts of that strategy developed. What we don't have is the answer to how we're going to implement that within our schools. So my invitation to you this year is to be an active participant in building school-level strategy. We had a little retreat we went to with all of the deans, and we talked about what that means to craft a strategy for a school. We've done that at the institution level. This year, we'll be doing this at each of the school levels. So coming up with a school vision statement, a mission statement. School vision statement being, where does a school want to be in 5 to 7 years? The school mission statement being, what student population do we serve? How do we serve them? How do we compete with other people who do similar things? How do the institutional values fit within this school? And then just like we have imperatives for the institution, growing enrollment with purpose, owning student success, building shared culture, are there any additional imperatives your school wants to pursue? Once those have been identified, each of the schools are going to develop a list of actions and strategies they'll implement over the next 3.5 years. Why 3.5 years? That lines up with the strategic plan. So 5 years from now, 5 years from when the strategic plan started, the school plans and the institutional plan will all come to a conclusion at the same time. And we'll go through the process of recrafting what is next. And one thing I've seen that's been pretty consistent, particularly in the promotion and tenure and evaluation processes of faculty, are that we have a lot of inconsistencies. As you read through the promotion and tenure documents, by the time they get to our office, they've been through a lot of committees and a lot of working, but it's clear we have not done the job we need to as an institution, identifying with faculty from the moment they come on campus what is expected. And some of those expectations will be different based on the school you're in. Some of them will be different based on the department you're in and based on your discipline. What we need to develop as part of this school level strategy are clear expectations and guidelines. Let's talk about some of those ought to be. The Senate adopted last year the Boyer model of scholarship. We need to decide what that means within each college and school. What type of scholarship do we recognize? How is it rewarded? The Boyer model recognizes multiple sources of evidence of scholarship activities, not just peer-reviewed journals. I hope that each school has a robust discussion on what that means, and we can become a leading institution that allows multiple pathways to recognize scholarship. Also, if you read through the course evaluations that come in the promotion and tenure documents, it is not clear that we have expectations of what a faculty member ought to be doing in an online class and in a face-to-face class. I hope that we have a robust discussion with each of the schools and what those expectations might be. For example, we have some classes that just offer a midterm and a final. With our type of student, that may not be the best approach to help them be successful. And maybe they need more feedback 2 weeks into the semester, 3 weeks into the semester, maybe offering 12 smaller exams rather than 2 big ones. Those are the conversations we need to have, and they need to be focused on how we can help students succeed more effectively. And it's a challenging conversation to have because to compare 2 things, you have to have 2 things to compare. That may seem like a redundant statement, but it's very true. And so you may say, what evidence do you have that this is going to be better than that? I'll likely say, we don't have any evidence until we try it. So try it. This is an open invitation to be innovative, to try new things, to try shaping courses and delivery in different ways and compare them and see what works. But those expectations, what does it mean? How often should we respond to students? How regularly should we give them graded feedback? That's part of our school-based strategy, and that should be a robust discussion that we conclude this fall semester. Also, we need to give faculty clear guidance on service, committee assignments, and expectations. What are they about advising, mentoring, clubs, that kind of stuff? How does that fit into service? Because we have some faculty who do a lot of work in that area that may not get recognized. Whatever we're going to recognize and evaluate, we need to be explicitly clear up front. Cleaning that process up is something that will be an outcome of this school-level strategic development. You can read through the other pieces that are there. There are a lot of opportunities for a school, a department, or program to grow on its own, to find meaningful places to exist that students will be attracted. This is the opportunity to pull those ideas together. We mentioned something about textbook costs and textbook fees. that should be something that we review. We have done an outstanding job as an institution adopting low-cost or no-cost materials. If you look at the ratio, we have about half of the classes that charge it. I did an analysis of my own just because I wanted to know, looked at over 1,300 different textbooks that we require for students. And I've got the numbers here. Any guesses on how that breaks out? So I looked at 1,391 different textbooks. Let's start with the big numbers. 622 of those, these are individual entries for a class, were for $50 or less. That is a really reasonable approach for a student. 371 were between $50 and $99. So we have, of those 1,391, we have about 1,000 that a student can purchase the books for a class for less than $100. We have about a dozen on the other end that a student is paying more or almost equal to the cost of tuition for the books. They're buying a book that they are paying the same cost for 15 weeks of your time and instruction. I'm not saying we have to get away from that, but somewhere within the consistency of our strategy, if we are the low-cost institution and we serve a student type that has great financial need, that's something we ought to look at. The rest falls somewhere in between. Reducing DFW rates. In bringing this subject up, I want to be clear that if a student earns an F, they should get an F. If a student earns a D, they should get a D. We will continue to have students who stop, drop, withdraw, WFs. I'm not saying at all that we lower the standard, but again, we've got to look at our half of the equation. What are we doing that is different, unique, and innovative to try to help more students succeed? We can't honestly say it's all the students. We can't also honestly say it's all of us. There's a balance somewhere in there in between, and that's the conversation we need to have within each of the schools. What can we do, and what can we encourage the students to do so that we'll have some more successful students? We do have a dashboard that looks at DFW rates, and you can look at by course prefix the number of successful students, the number of unsuccessful students over about the last 5 or 10 years as an institution. I encourage you to look at that dashboard. Let's also talk about intentional and efficient scheduling. We've done a lot of work in the last year and a half identifying which programs are offered on which campuses and the courses that are required for a student to complete a degree on that specific campus. That is an incredibly difficult thing to manage top down. We can look at lots of spreadsheets, we can look at a lot of analysis, but the real fine nuances are best decided at the department and school level. I'd encourage each of the schools and departments to have robust conversations, because if we have more efficient scheduling, we'll have students who can progress through degree programs more efficiently. Also, if we have more efficient scheduling, we'll be able to reduce the number of part-time faculty that we have, which we spend a lot of money on part-times, overload, and those things. I'm not opposed to either one of those. We've got wonderful part-time faculty, but we've got to be efficient in our scheduling in order for us to have a balanced budget that matches enrollment. That has to be part of the equation. I invite you to be part of that. If you see something that looks inefficient, don't just ignore it. In our shared governance environment, please bring it up. Go to a department chair, go to a program director and say, you know, it doesn't make sense that I'm teaching classes on 5 different campuses. What if we had that faculty member teach this and that and reduce travel costs? If we're all part of the solution, we're going to have the best solution. So that's an invitation to be a part of that. And any other areas of need that come up as we work through this building school level strategy, feel free to bring them up. This is not a comprehensive list, but a sincere invitation for you, your school, the Office of the Provost, all of us work together to build a school strategy for the coming year. This is the document that each of you will work from. This is a template that you'll see. So each school will have the opportunity to implement certain action items to support the objectives that are outlined in the strategic plan. Also an ability to come up with your own school level imperatives and strategies, and then action items you'll implement in the next 4 years to implement those and help enhance the school. So this is the process. Each of your deans will lead you through this. The idea is we'll have a table filled out and a document attached to the table describing what those action items are. That work will be done by December, and so each school will have a strategic plan and a faculty guideline document that includes all that narrative we talked about earlier, promotion, tenure requirements, that whole list of things that need to be sorted through, so that we have a strategy, a set of action items, and some faculty guidebook that'll help someone know the path they need to take for promotion and tenure and recognition. That we can take those and hand them to any outside entity or anybody within the school, and everybody will be on the same page. We'll have a document that we can bring people in under, and they'll understand and be evaluated according to something they know up front. So that's part of what we do. So in academic affairs this year, we've got some new programs. But our real emphasis will be on building the school level strategy so that everyone that participates in academic affairs can be a part of a big entity like we are, but also stay small and stay intimate and stay close. And that is the way we will grow big and continue to stay small. I want to finish up with just a comment on student success. I've mentioned a few things about that, the DFW rates, textbooks, costs, and those things. But we often look at student success as being focused on this cycle of teaching and learning. We teach, the students learn. Often the students teach us and we learn. But that's how we define it. Last year, it was actually last spring, we did an analysis of the students who don't continue with us. We looked at fall semester and identified all the students who had not graduated and had not come back to us. We expanded that to look at everything since consolidation, students who stopped out. We then took that list and ran it through a clearinghouse database, which identifies every student and where they attended next. And these are really interesting data. If a student leaves us before they graduate, the best data we have suggests they fall into one of three buckets. About 25% of them end up appearing somewhere else at another USG institution. That's not a failure, that's a success. Here's a student who is progressing on, continuing on to another degree program. It's a great thing. The second bucket, students who leave us, show up as a technical college student, which that's also a win. Someone decides they want to go on to some other career or some professional training. The second part of that bucket is they go on to online programs, other places, usually at for-profit institutions at about 4 times our cost. I don't think that's a win. That's what MGA Direct is about, is keeping those students here, expanding that footprint, trying to get students to work with us until they graduate. So that's about 50% of the students. The other 50% never show up in the database again. As far as we can track them, instead of being here with us, they're nowhere. They may have left with a little debt, some good memories, but no credential that'll help them in a marketplace. So we asked those students who had stopped out from fall. We identified a little over 1,000. We ended up with 909 emails that were functioning. We sent a survey out to them, got 101 responses. Of those 101, I recognize you can't see that very well at the bottom. I want to just point out, I assumed going in that a lot of the students would say, I couldn't get the classes I needed to finish my degree, so get your scheduling straight and I'll come back and finish. Of 101 responses, only 8 identified that as a problem. If you look, and that's one of the lowest bars that are there. If you look at all the other tie bars, they list personal issues, family issues, personal finances, family finances, and this was just a long list. They could check everything that applied to them. We live in an environment, the students aren't self-reliant and often haven't taught to be self-reliant. And I'm making some broad generalizations. Certainly we have some that are, some of the best that we have. We also have students here who living in a residence hall and having a meal ticket is the best environment they've ever lived in. So as faculty members and staff members, we've got to continue to shift what we think. And we do a fabulous job at this at Middle Georgia State. I want us to continue to develop this mindset. We're not just here to teach content and have them learn. We have to integrate in what we do the idea that we've got to teach them how to live, how to put a schedule in place, how to balance a budget. I'd encourage all of you in your classes, and when I teach, I'll be glad to do it and do it regularly, to have conversations about here's how you build your life, not just here's how you learn. The more we can integrate that across all our disciplines, the more successful they'll be in and outside of the classroom, and the more likely they are to be retained. So my invitation to you this year is to help build school-level strategy. That'll be an exciting opportunity for all of us to become a part of building something that's new, that's a part of Middle Georgia, and becomes a part of our work environment every day. Please engage in that process. And in the classroom, let's teach to the type of student that we have and make sure we're not only teaching and learning, but teaching them how to live and to live successfully and well. So last year when we concluded this meeting, we invited a few people to stand around the edges and create some relationships that may not have existed before. I want to do that again this year. I want to make sure that we're connecting not only with the things that we need to do at work, but connecting with each other. Those are the best connections that we can have. So if you want to sit in your office and do your research and not talk to anybody, that is certainly your prerogative. But I hope that's not the culture that we have. I hope if you have an issue, you have not one, but 10 people you can go talk to. I hope when you go to lunch that you sit with different groups and mingle and associate and share different ideas, and that we intentionally build that shared culture as an institution. So as we prepare to conclude, which I thank you for taking time to sit through this long monologue, I want to make sure that we take time to meet each other. So when we dismiss, I want to ask all the new faculty and staff to go to the back, between the 1 and 2 back there. We'll give you a second to dismiss in just a minute, and just line up across there, spread out a little bit. If you're a new administrator, come over here and just stand right across there. If we can get our provost fellows, both those last year and this year, to come over on this side. And we dismiss, I want to invite you to talk to 4 or 5 people, maybe those you haven't seen before, maybe those that are new. Make sure that they feel welcome and you make a good connection. So with that, before we give everybody a big Middle Georgia welcome, I want to thank you for the opportunities to work together, and thank you for what you do and what all of us do to literally change the lives of students as we move forward. So thanks for being here today, and we look forward to a great year together. Let's take a minute and distribute and have the opportunity to meet each other, then we'll be dismissed. Thank you, everybody.